So found footage month, I guess. I don't know. Marathon
Found footage
has
decade.
come to an end for the time being.
Yeah, just for the time being.
We'll see
Momentarily.
when we get back to it. I'm sure we're going to within the next year or so.
Yes.
We'll see, because we do like that subgenre quite a bit, as you guys saw. So we have now entered a new phase,
A new era.
which is
Anthologies.
anthologies. Now, this is a subgenre that definitely puts some people off, as is the truth with any subgenre, right? Mine is vampires. Never been big on them. There are always exceptions to the rule. I definitely love some vampire films very, very much, but I find them to be pretty unappealing a lot of the times, and are responsible for some of the worst films ever made. What about you? What's the subgenre you do not like that much in horror? Do you have one?
I don't know. I'm like trying to think and actually struggling for the time being because like I like exorcist movies, I like zombie movies, I like vampire movies, I love haunting movies, like ghost stories.
Mm-hmm.
I love slashers.
How about Tyler Perry movies? Like Boo, Medea's Halloween.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Horror comedy? Is that what you're... I like horror
I
comedies.
was joking.
Oh, okay.
It's not a subgenre.
Oh. I don't know. I can't think of any.
That would be
Truly.
like the Nickelback of horror for people.
Oh.
If you want to consider it horror, which you don't. Someone sent me both of those. And I was like, I'm not watching these. Why did you send these to me?
I mean, Nickelback's pretty good. Look at this graph.
I actually like some Nickelback songs. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it.
I can't think of any subgenres. I don't know. I would have to watch because I like Alien. I don't know. I like a lot of them to be honest. I don't find any are super like tired to me. I suppose.
Yeah.
So.
Vampires are really my only one.
But I get it.
And
yeah.
Exorcism, too.
I know.
I'm not a
Yeah.
huge fan of exorcism movies. That said, there are tons of exorcism movies I love.
Yeah.
But it's just not a subgenre that I'm like excited for when I see it. Anyways, moving on. Doesn't matter. Damn, we talked way too long on that. So we started this with a classic, Mario Bava's Black Sabbath. Not to be confused with Mario Bava's Black Sunday. A much different, much different film. So this one stars Boris Karloff, a much older Boris Karloff. This movie was made in 1963. And this, I have the Kino Labra Blu-ray, which I have, I think every film that they've made of that they've transferred of his, I do have back here. I'm looking at it over there, but I don't want to go get up and get it. But their transfers are gorgeous. So if you're ever wondering, like, should I upgrade to them? Yes, the Kino Blues are beautiful, and this is restored amazingly well. Overall, first, what did you think of the film as a whole?
As a whole, I quite liked it. I found the thing that I liked the most about the film is the style. I think that there was some really beautiful cinematography and the lighting was phenomenal. So I was really into the aesthetic of the film overall. But my favorite segment is definitely the last segment.
I mean, yeah, it would be hard pressed to find many people that aren't going to cite A Drop of Water as the best segment in this film. But I do think that there would be people out there that would prefer one of the first two segments to it, be it like Giallo fans who get to see glimmers and glimpses of what would become Giallos, because Mario Bava is kind of the godfather of giallos, in my opinion, with Blood and Black Lace. And this is like the whole Ramones, Sex Pistols, who created punk shit. Like, you can definitely go back and forth. It's like the Peeping Tom and Psycho or whatever, right? Like, there's always going to be people who say this is the first, or no, it's this, and people get way, way too out of control with that stuff. It doesn't really matter. But you do get to see, you know, little bits and flavors in the first segment, the telephone, of giallos. We have the black gloves and the shining knife and you know, the voice of the killer over the phone and this ridiculous motive and whatever. And a total subversion of expectations, the whodunit, and then like a flip of the killer in the end. So that segment is very, very giallo. Then the second segment is more like classic gothic, vampire-esque, you know, foggy landscapes and castles and whatever. As far as, so I could 100% see like people who like that's like old school films with this really thick atmosphere and beautiful landscapes and kind of older type stories. Like I could 100% see them thinking the Wordalac, the second segment, is their favorite. So the giallo fans, you really got something for everybody here. This is probably the third time I've seen this movie, and easily my favorite watching of this film. I absolutely loved it on this viewing. I really enjoyed all three segments almost equally, to be honest. Okay. As much as I love A Drop of Water, and I do think it is easily the scariest, I was very invested in all three of them aesthetically. Yes. I think they're all gorgeous and rich, and I was so into just immersing myself in the textures and the colors and everything and the sensuality. Like, there's such a sexiness to the first episode, even though it's like depraved. The way that they frame this girl in the opening, Rosie, she's so beautiful, and I feel like the camera's kind of like making love to her because that's how the voice on the phone is seeing her, very sexualized, and it feels that way to me. It's like we're viewing her through the lens of the voyeur outside, and I just love that. Now, do I have any explanations for how this segment is possible? Not really. Outside of, the girl who is the killer. I did not write her name down. It's Rosie and Frank, and then the last girl's name is something, and I am blanking on it now. But
I won't remember it either.
Spoilers, obviously, guys. Yes. We're not going to do spoilers for all of these, but this one I just did want to talk spoilers because it's from 1963, and it's like you've had a chance to see it. Most of the found footage films we covered, came out in the last couple years. So I was just like, all right, you probably haven't heard of these, you haven't seen it. This is a classic. We have to talk about it. But the girl who ends up being the girl who's pretending to be Frank on the phone, how she was able to know what Rosie was doing in the house when she was at her house. Now, the eyes that we see in the window, I'm assuming are Frank's. He really is watching in on her. And then, because I was like, how is he calling from outside? There's no cell phones, right? Like, does he have like a landline with a big long extension cord that he's like dragging across the lawn to be able to call and look into her house? Now, how close does the other girl live to her? She says, I'll be there in 5 minutes. Now, that could be like, I need to get ready. I live literally next door. So it's possible she could see through, but all of her windows are closed. She turns out the lights, all that. Now, her turning off the lights and her having a neighbor, she could see, like, oh, you turned out the lights. Yes. Okay, I could see that. But being like, oh, you're covering yourself up with she couldn't see any of that. No. Because she says it in real time. Yeah. She does something and she's like, oh, you're doing this now. And it's like, how is she seeing what she's doing?
it's possible that that's just kind of like a lucky guess, so to speak, because
I was
she's
gonna say
friends with her,
Yeah.
or ex-friends, and knows her and everything.
But it's really like, it's important she gets it right.
Absolutely. I mean, it's what builds her fear, and
it's a risky guess.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it works if that's what it is. It's just a guess.
It's the only explanation I got is that she's making an educated guess based on their friendship. Now, there is a question here, and of course, it's going to be very, very ambiguous because of the time period in which this came out in. Now, Alfred Hitchcock did make a movie called Rope back in the 40s, or maybe I think it's the 40s, the late 40s, 47 or something, that did deal with a gay couple that's trying to hide their secret love affair. And I know Bava is an enormous fan of Hitchcock. So it is hinted at that Rosie and the other girl were lovers.
Yes.
But never outright said to my memory.
It's not. I don't think it is ever explicitly said, but it's also easy. Like when you look at films, from the past through a 2022 lens. Like I feel like it seemed really obvious that they were romantic in some way.
But in 1963, people were like,
yeah,
they were friends.
Yeah, I do think that it was meant to be ambiguous, but it feels very much like jilted lover, type of behavior. And I mean, like you were saying earlier, all the subtle giallo kind of elements do make this segment feel like, I don't know, very, very sensual for sure.
Yeah.
And I really did like, that it's contained, in one room. Yeah. And there's so much suspense and, fear being built up, for somebody being watched voyeuristically. And I like that even though the threats are kind of about how beautiful she is and her body, it's always like, it's not sexual though. I'm gonna I want to chop you up and mutilate you and I want to kill you. That's where their eroticism is coming from for her friend.
I think that's to throw her off the scent, right? When she is explaining her body, she does want it. But then she has to be like, oh no, but I'm Frank and I just want to cut you up, right? So it's to take the scent off of her as a suspect. It's like, no, I'm this person over here. I don't want your body, but she's sitting there masturbating, right? I do think she's absolutely sexualizing her. And her plan was to just get in the house and to let her sleep with her to get back into the fray. But of course, unfortunately, much to her chagrin, finds out that Frank really did come over and really did commit homicide.
Yeah.
But now, why Frank was in jail? What did we get an answer? I know he escaped.
Yeah, I don't remember.
So he's not going to be there long.
I know that she was like, I ratted him out. That was why she was afraid. But I can't remember if there's a specific reason. If we find out exactly why he went to jail.
It might be in that newspaper thing, but totally we don't speak Italian.
Yeah, I don't know. Even though these are all filmed in English.
No, Boris Karloff's lines look like they were in English in the first bit of this movie.
Okay.
But then the rest, everything looked Italian. But it is dubbed.
It's
in
weird.
Italian because they didn't record audio on this location.
I could have sworn that in one of the other segments that I saw somebody and it looked like they were speaking English, but it was dubbed in Italian.
I guess if you're redubbing it later anyways, it doesn't really matter what anybody's speaking.
Exactly. But anyway, yeah. I'm not sure why he was in prison, basically.
Yeah. Now, Rosie willingly taking drugs that are going to incapacitate her when she thinks there's a killer lurking outside, and all of that's between her and him is her friend. Why she never calls the police is beyond me. He's like, don't bother, they won't be here. But then she calls her friend, and her friend's like 5 minutes, and the guy doesn't come in. So why wouldn't she think well, he's giving me 5 minutes to get my friend here. The police should be able to get here pretty damn quick. So the fact that she never even seems to consider it in the first at least 10 minutes of the movie, I was like, it would be the first thing you did. But whatever. I don't know what their relationship with the police were back in 1963 in Italy. But really, from what I can tell, Rosie's only crime in this entire film is just being gorgeous.
Yeah.
That's it. And that's, I mean, unfortunately, a lot of women can relate to that. Right, babe? My beautiful little lady. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think she does anything to deserve this. I mean, even ratting out somebody for doing a crime, like, I don't know, it's not worthy of death, but it sucks that her friend tries to, like, date rape her, and, you know, it's just not a cool thing to do.
I don't know what her intention was there. But, I mean, I guess in the end, the two bad people get what they deserve, and Rosie is currently single, so if anyone wants to chop her into little pieces,
time travel back in time,
you now have the option, because the other two people can't do it. Moving on to the word-a-lock.
Word-a-lock.
Yeah, I'm not going to be using that word a lot. I can tell you that.
No.
From what we could tell, it was like word-a-lock. Word-a-lock. That's how they were saying it. It was fast. It was fast and it was quick.
Fast and quick.
But word-a-lack is how it's spelled.
Yeah.
But I think it's just word-a-lock.
Word-a-lack? We sound like such.
Luck. Not lack. Luck.
Word-a-luck.
Yeah.
Word-a-lack?
Word-a-lack. I watched that Word-a-lack.
I know.
Now this one heavily features Karloff.
Yes.
And he is, spoilers, the Word-a-lack who shows up. This has the signature, like, blood paint looking stuff. The paint red.
The paint.
The blood that looks like
blood that looks
paint.
like paint, yeah.
I don't know why I said that so weird. I was trying
blood,
the paint blood. I don't know.
Yes.
The blood that's
like
clearly paint.
Yes.
And not blood at all. That's very stylized in
Yes.
giallo films and whatever. It was actually an artistic choice to cut down on the gratuitous like on-screen violence, right? Like the blood added to the censorship of the film. But if it was made to look fake, then it wouldn't be as intense to viewers.
Yeah, as realistic or whatever.
Sure.
I actually really love that look in Italian movies, the paint blood. I think that it is very artistic looking, and it kind of adds this, it's just, they always feel very ethereal and very nightmarish and like, you know, surreal, and I think that having the blood look that way adds to the effect, so I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was the one that surprised me the most on rewatch, because I find that this is the one that's least catered to me, because I don't like old, like, Dracula type movies, and this does have a sense of that. But there was something about it, and it almost made me, which was really interesting. So this is something to take from this. This actually made me warm up to the idea of watching older cinema, because this is definitely a tribute to that kind of film, especially since they used Boris Karloff, you know, the Mummy and Frankenstein's monster himself. So this is an homage to that, which of course nowadays we have a lot of people making homages to the 80s and to the 90s, right? Because we have that generation who grew up on those films that came from generations before them that are within that time frame of their memory. And they get to now look back upon those fondly and do homages to them. But in 1963, of course, people like Mario Bava grew up on Universal monster movies and Hitchcock and whatever, so he gets to do his homage to those things. So he's doing his homage to, you know, Dracula and whatnot. And I am a big fan of Hammer horror films. I do like the Dracula films with Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee. I like the Frankenstein movies that they made. I like the Mummy movies they made, the Quatermass experiments, and all that stuff. I am a big fan of those. Those are like 57 and beyond. But I've never been a big fan of like Bela Lugosi's Dracula, or, you know, Frankenstein, or the Mummy, or Wolfman, or whatever. I own the box set with all the films, and every time I watch one, I'm a little bored. But there was something about this one. It was just the atmosphere throughout this. It just had this certain quality to it that made it feel like otherworldly. Like nowadays we are more focused on realism, right? We like to have films that get into our minds and get into our homes and whatever, and we're thinking the guy next door, right? It's the Norman Bates effect, where it's like it's not a monster in a castle far away that seems like it's not really a threat to you because you don't live near Transylvania and you can tell the disconnect because it's a vampire and those don't exist. And then there's the killer next door, who's the really nice guy who runs the motel down the street and that you would never suspect in a million years. That feels real to you. So there is a huge disconnect from these old school movies that have that kind of almost fantasy element to them, almost like you're watching a Lord of the Rings or something. It's so disconnected from your reality. But I really loved the feeling of this one, and the lighting was just phenomenal throughout. The locations were amazing throughout. The landscape was gorgeous throughout. The performances are, over the top, and the characters are absolutely absurd. Like, this guy falls in love with a girl in 3 seconds flat because she's beautiful. And that's it. That's his criteria. But, going back to the telephone, all she seems to care about when it comes to Rosie is her looks. So these are pretty shallow characters in very rich environments. But yeah, you can 100% question tons of the logic in here. What a pussy the son is in this. When his dad comes home and is clearly a monster, who's clearly a wordalock. He's like, if you don't see me by the 5th day, kill me. And then at midnight, they're like, all right, we better kill him. And then they're like, oh, he's here at 12:01. Yeah. Guess we better let him in. And then he comes in and he's like, that dog outside is barking and at a storm. Kill it.
Yeah.
And you're like,
so insane.
Kill the dog for barking at a storm? And he's like, don't argue with me. And the kid actually goes outside and shoots the dog for barking when his clearly monster father comes home. What a pussy. And then his wife is just like, there's another monster outside. And she's like, if you get in my way, I'll kill you. And he ends up letting her stab him to death. He's just a total coward throughout this whole thing. He can't stand up for anything right, and he will just tell anything. He'll do anything anybody tells him to.
Yeah, he's just a doormat. So what you were saying earlier about the Universal monsters and stuff, we've talked about this, but I went through a brief period where I was really kind of into older movies. I got really obsessed with the Phantom of the Opera, and I was wanting to watch all of these just old Universal monster movies, and I haven't really had a chance to since we started watching The Wolfman and Dracula. We watched Dracula, we completed that, and then we started The Wolfman, and we were watching it with our kids, and then we kind of stopped halfway, but I want to revisit it, and I think that as far as watching all of them, and they would be really good for educational purposes and just to see how horror has evolved throughout the century. But I actually do really like the feel of those movies because they don't feel real. And I know that that's a problem that you tend to have with older films, is that the dialogue is just not natural sounding. No. It's so, it's that transatlantic accent at times, and it just doesn't sound real.
What's that thespian stage acting?
But I am a thespian. I was in drama in high school and was really obsessed with it for a while, and I very much appreciate theatrical films and theatrical dialogue. And with this segment, I agree with you that it felt so moody and gothic, and this kind of when things are shot like this, they feel like a fairy tale. Yeah. And that is something that I absolutely adore when movies do, because horror does border fantasy. because like even if you're unless you're religious and truly believe in like demons and angels, like those types of things are the same as dragons and fairies and all these other fantastical creatures and stories that humans have told themselves forever.
Yeah.
So I really liked that about this segment as well, and I won't lie, I was getting a little tired during part of it because we were watching it at like 1 a.m. So I did sort of doze out for like a couple minutes at times, but not because it was a boring segment. I was just sleepy personally.
Yeah, you were.
But I woke up and I thought it was creepy. I mean, like, it reminded me of Salem's Lot a little bit.
Sure.
Not, really in anything other than that it's about like these vampire creatures.
Well, and there's like
kind
a
of the
kid,
the kid
at the window,
at the door that's like, let me in.
Yeah.
That's terrifying. And then also it's more just like that everybody is being turned into a word-a-lack, a word-a-lug.
Yeah.
So, and it's just, it felt very Salem's Lot-ish to me, where, the whole town is becoming turned. And yeah, I don't know, I liked it. It had just the atmosphere and the lighting at times were phenomenal. Like, absolutely phenomenal. There were some shots on Boris Karloff's face with lighting that was just like, it's crazy how much it can change like the feeling of the shot and the way that, and he had contact lenses in, so some of it was augmented, but just the way the light was hitting his face, it was so intense and so scary that, especially with this segment and the last segment, if I had watched this movie when I was at a more impressionable age even than now, like if I was 12 or younger, I think I would have been just destroyed. I think I would have been so scared by it.
Imagine being 12 in 1963.
Oh my God. I mean, it's like The Exorcist kind of a thing, right? Where it's like, you don't have a reference. Like now we have all this like hardcore horror and gore and like there's so many scary things that, if you're a fan, you can expose yourself to, but then it was more limited. Much more limited. And I mean, even now as an adult, like the last segment genuinely really scared me and frightened me. And I think that it will have that effect on a lot of people, and it just kind of speaks to how well made each of the segments are, Yeah. So.
A word-a-lack obviously is very, very similar to a vampire, except for in this, and something I liked about it, I don't know if this is based on some other mythology. I'm assuming it is. For some reason in my head, I'm like, it's Hungarian.
I know.
No idea why I think that. I have nothing to base that on, but I was like, in my head, I was like, it's Hungarian. And I just wanted to say that.
You might be right.
Maybe I'm just hungry. Hungarian. Never mind. But, yeah. So, in vampire lore, right, it's more of just like, there's a romanticism to how that's done, right? It's more of like the sexy vampire is going after the girl that he's into and whatever, and there's always this kind of like romantic flair to it, mostly due to like Bram Stoker's interpretation, which is the modern vampire, which she created, and actually also kind of created sci-fi in her stead as well. But regardless, this is more love-based. I know romance and love sound similar, but romance is like, I don't know, this like idea, and then the love in this is like this foundation for like family.
Yeah, it's
and
more platonic.
And even for romance as well, because the girl in the end wants to kill the guy because of his love for her, and because of his love for her, she now has a love for him because of kind of his blind love for her. But really it's a like keeping it in the family love, which is really interesting. He's not going after the romance. It's like, I want to kill my daughter, and my daughter wants to kill her, her son, and so on and so forth, right? But that's not how that happens. The son kills the mom. It doesn't matter. But like the grandfather goes and kills his grandkid.
Yeah.
Because he loves him most.
Yeah.
And then the grandkid kills his mom because he loves her most, right? And so that all I thought was super, super cool. Is like you kill the one that you love most, which is terrifying.
Oh my god!
Right? Because that's the person you want to hurt the least. I would
Yes.
obviously go after my daughters, and thinking about that is
Oh my
terrifying
God.
to me.
It's so scary.
So, and there's some really, for 1963, I was pretty impressed. There's a decapitation, a severed head, and the severed head looks really good.
It
Then they
does.
hang it from their like fence outside, and it is really gruesome.
It's scary looking.
Yeah.
It looks like somebody's head, like an actual person's head.
Really, really cool. Of note, Karloff's name in this is Ivan, of course, based on Ivan the Terrible. We've also got what was I gonna say? I had something written down here. Where the hell did it go? I was just gonna say it. What?
Is it this?
No.
I don't know.
That's
Talking
so
about the
weird.
decapitation.
Oh, it's here. The kid outside, he's like, he kind of gets in his mom's sympathies because he's cold.
Yeah.
And this heavily reminds me of the Are You Afraid of the Dark episode with the cold ghost. And the kid's, I'm cold. And yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to mention that for any Are You Afraid of the Dark fans. But when that kid was outside saying I'm cold, it did have very much flavors of Salem's Lot, but also of that Are You Afraid of the Dark episode.
It's creepy. Really creepy.
And the guy's love and like is in record time.
Oh my god.
Record time.
Caesar, and he's like, marry me.
Now, granted, I mean, one can be. People talk about love at first sight, right?
Sure.
I mean, Jack is instantly in love with Rose, right? Like, now he has to meet Rose, and interact with her, and he is smitten for her, even though she's being a bitch to him, right? Like when she first meets him, she's not nice to him, and then throughout, she's kind of not nice to him for a while before, obviously, you know, they have their romance blossom once he takes her below decks and they have all that dancing and fun. But he's pretty much obsessed with her, and she's not really in love with him, right? Same with Rose and Jack, right? She's like, he's interesting to me, but he's not on my radar.
Yeah.
Right? He's not a millionaire. He's not, you know, my mom's never going to approve of him. This girl's kind of similar. She's just like, this guy's into me, and that's interesting, and he's a means of the way out of here, and she does run off with him. But man, it's amazing. But if you look into studies of this, it does say in the studies, now of course this is generalization, it can be different for everybody, but typically on average, how you gauge such a thing, I have no idea. But it does say in that study that guys know within the first 5 minutes whether or not they would marry a girl, and a girl takes 6 months.
Wow, that's
So
interesting.
that's, you can look it up. I swear that's what I read. So this feels like that guy's like, hi, I love you.
100%.
I love you. What's your name? That's pretty much as fast as it happens here. Everybody dies in this.
Yeah, they're all dead.
They're all dead.
But they're together, so it's like,
yeah.
I guess at least
I
there's
don't know.
that.
Are they allergic to the sun?
I don't know.
What rules
I mean,
apply
I
to the
assume
word
they
a
have
lot?
to keep going around and eating people, so...
Why are the two lovers, the two lovebirds that run off to these really cool ruins,
Oh
why
my
are
God,
they
yeah.
still there a day later? Because it like shows that it's
don't
like
know.
daytime, and then it shows it's nighttime again, and the Wordalac's coming for him, and then everybody's coming for him, and then they take the daughter down, and then the daughter goes after her husband to be. Now, what's it like to be a Wordalac, and is it like a curse to be like that, or does he now get to be with her as a Wordalac as well?
Like, do you retain any amount of your personality, or is that just like a demon that's hijacked your body, kind of like in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where they
Sure.
have like the memory of the person, but it's not really them, it's a demon?
Yeah,
I don't know.
We'll have to look it up.
Yeah, we'll find out. Maybe it's Hungarian.
All right, let's move on. It's Hungarian.
To the worst segment.
To A Drop of Water, the thing that everyone remembers from this film if they've seen it, because the face in this is something of nightmares. It is, bar none, the scariest face I've ever seen on screen.
I can still see it like right now. Like in my head, I have it in there permanently.
Now I built it up heavily for Kaylee before she saw it. So much so that she was like, what if you built it up too much?
I know.
What if it isn't a thing? And I was just looked over it and I was just like, trust me, I could not build this thing up enough. It's anything I can say is undercutting it.
Yeah.
Because it's indescribable. It's nothing like you think it's gonna look like. You're thinking of this monstrous face. It resembles a human.
Oh my god.
But like it's interesting. The expression on the face, which remains exactly the same throughout, right? It doesn't emote anything but the same expression. But that expression speaks so many different kinds of terror.
Yes.
Because I could probably use like 15 words to describe the look that face is giving.
Yes.
And it would and all of them would be apt. And all of them fit it. There's something about it. It's like it's sinister. It's cunning. It's like
mocking,
sure,
but it's also terrified, and
it's like it looks like it could look right through you.
Oh my god, it is beyond scary, and that is exactly why part of it actually is what you just said, that there's so many different ways to interpret the expression, and your brain really doesn't know what it's looking at.
No.
Because, like as humans, like you recognize facial expressions so quickly, and there's micro expressions. Like it's one of the main ways that we communicate with people is by reading facial expressions. So seeing that, it's like your brain really, like it lags, it glitches, and you don't know what it is trying to communicate, because it has all those different like possibilities that it could mean. And the fact that it doesn't change as well throughout just adds like another level to how very uncanny valley it is.
Yes.
Because it's like it looks human, but it's 100% not human, but it's like just on that cusp where you could definitely see it being a person. So this segment is about a nurse who gets called to somebody's house that she'd been taking care of by a maid, I guess, that lives there, who tells her that the person that she was taking care of has passed away, and she has her come over to take a look at her and everything,
and get her dressed for
the funeral. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the nurse sees a ring on her finger that's like this sapphire or something, some big jewel, and she decides to steal it.
A Hungarian jewel.
It's a Hungarian jewel, and so she decides to steal it. And then whenever she goes back to her house, it's a huge mistake, and she basically gets haunted by this the ghost of this woman.
She's like a tarot card seance enthusiast.
Yes, who is like a psychic medium who had like, she had like spirit communications, and that's like this whole theory of how she was killed and got sick was because the spirits decided to kill her. Her house is overrun with cats too, so there's all these cats, running around.
She's a crazy cat lady on top of it.
And her house is like, holy shit, like whenever we moved in,
I
don't even know what the place is, but it's like a giant mansion.
It's like the freaking Winchester mystery house.
Yeah, but it has all these old like statues and like really elaborate like fixtures and paintings, and it like looks really, really wealthy and expensive.
Yeah.
But it's also run down and like in disarray, and it's so bizarre. And the way that they lit the house too is like, again, just like with all of these segments, just beautiful and very like nightmarish. And so the face of the woman in this is so, I don't even have words to describe how scary it is, because there's a scene, I can't tell, like I kept asking you like how they did it, because I can't tell if it's a mask or a prosthetic or if it's a dummy or what, because
there's definitely a human under it.
There's a human under it, but I don't understand what it is, because it feels like the eyes are real.
The eyes are
like
real.
The eyes feel like actual human eyes, but then the face itself never ever changes. It's entirely static in the expression.
And it never blinks.
It never blinks, and it is so unsettling and so like it just burrows into my brain.
The only thing that moves is the eyes
and the
body. and the hands sort of, but the hands look like they're made of wax.
Yes.
Which adds this kind of like rigor mortis kind of feel to the body, and that's what's happening, right? The hands are in rigor, the face is in rigor,
yes.
but the woman is moving around.
Oh
now, why the rest of her body would be able to move? But she sits up, stiff, like she's a stiff, right? And then she floats across the room. She doesn't walk, so her body is just stiff. The way she moves, whether it be sitting up, whether it be floating across the room, everything. She's able to teleport around the house as well, within the view of the viewer. So she has all the supernatural abilities. Little quick side note as well. If you're wondering if Black Sabbath, the band, had any connection to this, yes, they did name themselves after this movie. And for good reason. Mm-hmm. You know, this is probably the most demonic thing available to them when they're like, we want to be associated with the most demonic thing.
With literal demons.
Yeah. And so Ozzy was just like, I saw this movie once.
Yeah.
This is why Ozzy's so screwed in the head.
God,
this is why he can't remember anything anymore. That's why he did all those drugs. Was to try to get this face out of his mind.
100%.
Yeah, he was just like, just give me any drug. I can't see this anymore.
It looked like you were gonna inhale a joint, but then you also did it.
I took the joint and
I did it through your nose.
Yeah, that's how much drugs I've done. I don't even know what orifice the joint goes in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just.
Oh my God.
It really is. It's a thing of nightmares, and I think that as far as how it was achieved, I did try looking it up last night. I yielded 0 results on the making of this. I didn't see any special features on the Blu-ray. As far as what I think the body is, outside of them actually getting a actual demon to be in the movie, it's a prosthetic that's applied over her face, and I think that mostly because it is, it has real eyes in it, this is clearly her eyes from what I can tell, unless I'm completely wrong, but it can't be. Those are real eyes. And whether or not that's her mouth, I think you can see into her mouth, but her teeth and all of that, that's not real. But her face is really big, like really big, much bigger than a normal head. And I think that's also unsettling.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's an overlay of prosthetics with the mouth open and only the eyes. Those are the only 2 things from the actual actress or actor that's playing the dead woman. But man, just it's interesting because this really depends on that face, right? If this was any other face and it was coming after her, it wouldn't be as effective. It might work because the style is good. The lighting is great. The performances are fine. All that stuff is good, right? But it's the face. It is the face. This whole segment is really, really dependent upon that face hitting.
Yes.
And obviously it succeeds greatly in that way. But it's not only when it moves is it scary, but it reminds me of the dead kid in Terrified.
Yes.
Where it's just it's sitting there is scary enough.
Yes.
This thing never needed to move.
Oh my God.
And it would be scary, right? It moved and it was even scarier.
Oh my God.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's incredible how they're literally just doing a shot of a dummy.
Sure.
And it's I'm so scared, but it's the lighting, it's the makeup. This makeup doesn't get anywhere near enough credit. We talk about the guy who did the makeup for Frankenstein's monster, and we talk about, Rob Bottin in The Thing, and we talk about, we don't talk about this.
This is amazing. This is what I would aspire to be able to create at some point. I think that it's just incredible. And I mean, like you said, comparing it to that child at the table in Terrified, it's exactly the same type of feeling. And adding on to it, moving really just completely messed me up because I was like, it'll be fine if it just sits there. But then having the idea that it's now moving and following is just, it's another level of scary. I love the segment of this when when the nurse is being chased throughout the house, and there's all these kind of quick cuts to like her hands coming from behind doorways,
Sure.
but it's all like, like she's teleporting everywhere, and it's just, if I don't know what you would do. Like I would just die from fright, basically. Like.
And then it's even kind of hinted upon in the end that she is now the revenge demon or whatever the hell if someone tries to steal, because that it is missing from her finger, right? The ring has been taken back, and the dress that the chick was wearing that she put her into is laying on her bed. At least that's what it looked like. I'm pretty sure that was not her dressing gown. It was the dress of the woman laying on the bed.
That would make a ton of sense, though.
That's up for dispute.
But I'm not sure.
But they do focus on it, and we never see her put it on the bed, to my memory. I could be wrong on that. I was taking notes.
You're probably right.
I could have looked down when she put it out, but when I saw the dress on the bed, I was like, is that the same dress that the woman was wearing? Because if so, she left behind that. And then took, like, I'm returning what you gave to me, and I'm taking back what you stole from me.
That's really cool. That's really cool. I didn't catch the dress part, so I like that interpretation for sure.
Yeah. Definitely top 5 favorite segments in Anthology history, for sure. And absolutely, without a doubt, the scariest face ever put on screen.
100%. It's a literal cadaver. A demonically possessed cadaver.
Yeah.
Oh,
and I also love that this film ends on a note of levity, with Boris Karloff's character riding on what is obviously a fake horse during the Wordalac segment, and then they show it, and I was like, I think that's just guys running around with trees in a circle, because I've seen that done in like movies where they depict films from that era, and I know that's what they were doing. And then at the very end, they pull back the camera and show him on a fake horse, and the guy's running in a circle, and then there's this big spinning light that projects all these different images onto the wall behind him, for lighting strobe effects, which was just, it was really playful, tongue-in-cheek, cutesy way to end this. Almost so to like, we know we just ruined your life.
Yeah, 100%.
And we don't want it to be like a cold ending to where we just end on that face, and then the screen goes dark, and then you go home and you're like, I hate my life.
Oh my god.
They were like, all right, let's get Boris Karloff in here and tell a joke, because man, I don't know how people are going to react to going home with this in their mind.
100% it was to lift the mood a little bit. And it's also cool to see, like, the spinning in circle with trees. Like,
sure, old school filmmaking.
We had to, like, what people had to do.
That's what we're going to have to do.
That's what we're going to have to do as amateur filmmakers.
I love it.
It's really, really cool.
I love getting clever like that. So amazing
it's
film.
Wonderful. Yes. Truly
definitely
amazing.
One of the best anthologies ever made. It's only 3 segments. No real wraparound outside of Boris Karloff, just like being like, hey, I'm Boris Karloff in Italian, and here's your movie, and then I'm on a fake horse, goodbye.
It's
right, so that's the wraparound.
Yeah.
But that's that. The longest we'll talk about in Anthology probably here.
Probably. We just wanted to really gush over it because it's so incredible. Yeah. So you should check it out.
Yeah.
And you should also
subscribe! Oh my god! Press every button on the screen.
Except for that button.
You can hit that button.
The subscribe button,
hit
and the thumbs up button, and the bell button. I don't even know what the bell button does.
It notifies you.
Oh, hit the bell button.
Yeah, you can do personalization. You can do all. You can do off.
All for us.
All. You want to know every time we post a video.
And comment if you have seen this.
Yes, please.
And check us out on TikTok.
Because I do respond to every message.
He does.
Even the shitty ones.
He spends
especially the shitty
so much time responding to comments. So.
Oh my god, it's like freaking like a third of my day.
But we love interacting with you guys and getting feedback from the channel and everything. So you can keep commenting, and you can also go to our Patreon and join us for watch parties twice monthly. Which we're going to be starting soon.
Yeah.
And you can check our TikTok out because we post things there. And yeah.
And for the girl who called me a chud recently in the comments below, fuck you. Bye.
Bye.